Hi guys, thank you for joining me again for another episode of Missing the Missing. In this episode, number 10, we're going to be talking about Luke Durbin. I'm sorry it's been so long since my last video. I've been really busy with my full-time work, so without further ado, let's get into the case. A blog by Mikey Womble, linked below, has done a fantastic job at collating lots of details about Luke and his disappearance, as well as citing his sources, and I have leaned on his work very heavily for this video. You will find his website and the relevant article linked below if you want to go and check it out for yourself. Luke Durbin was born on the 4th of December 1986 and lived in Hollesley, UK. He was raised, for the most part, in a single-parent family, with lone mum Nikki, and he also had a younger sister called Alicia, who he was very close to. Nikki described the family's life as incredibly simple and loving. Luke went to Farlingay High School in Suffolk and was described as bright and sociable, cheeky, very clever, talented and loving. Luke was ambitious and wanted to travel and save money so he could start recording his music. Luke was a talented musician, writing music and playing the guitar. And after leaving school, he enrolled on a music technology course at a college in Colchester, but dropped out sadly after a year, potentially due to the daily commute and the toll it was having on him. The Google Maps today, albeit 10 years later, they say the drive would take about an hour, and the public transport options taking much longer, potentially up to 2 hours each way. I'm not sure if Luke drove or would be taking buses and trains. I do know he had a motorcycle, but this was much later on. It was at this time that those close to Luke described him as frustrated, sullen, uncommunicative, and he seemed to struggle for a while. His mum Nikki is quoted as saying, quote, "He wasn't happy, he'd lost his way. He didn't have any focus. He did jobs in kitchens and odd days of work here and there, but he had nothing to aim for." However, after this difficult period in his life, Luke found a job at a local grocery store in Alderburgh, which was about 16 miles from the family home. Nikki described the dramatic change she saw in Luke. Quote, "I think the woman who owned the shop saw Luke's potential, and it was fantastic. She gave him a lot of responsibility, and he took it on well. I noticed the change in him completely. It felt like Luke was back. He likes cooking, he would buy stuff from the shop and come home and cook for us. It was lovely. It was like how he was before he changed." Luke started working there 6 weeks before he went missing. A friend of Luke's, called Alex, was a chef based in London and was visiting friends and family back in Suffolk. The occasion called for a night out, and Luke and his friends planned to go out on Thursday the 11th of May 2006 to Ipswich, a popular nightlife destination about a 40-minute drive away. I'm not sure if Luke or the group had previously been out to Ipswich or not. With the exception of his decline in mood the year prior, which he seemed to have recovered from, there was nothing out of the ordinary and no warning signs on the lead up to his disappearance. At the time of his disappearance, Luke was 19 years old and was described as white, 5 foot 10 inches tall, with a slim build. He had blue eyes and short wavy brown hair, which is described as both light brown and dark brown in varying sources, though from the photos it does appear dark. The last time he was seen, Luke was wearing a black/grey long-sleeved collared shirt, a reversible purple or plum and grey white stuff sweatshirt, and, quote, tatty-looking faded denim jeans with an undescribed motif on the side thigh area. He was also described as wearing grey chocolate brown suede moccasin-style shoes or loafers. Luke's mum Nikki remembers the last time she saw him. "I remember it being really sunny, and Alicia and I were sat talking in the kitchen. Luke had had a bath, he came out and was on the phone to one of his friends. He was belly laughing so much that it was making Alicia and I laugh as well. It was contagious. Luke then walked out of the back door in the kitchen. He and his mum said they loved each other, and off he went to go on a night out with friends." Nikki knew that Luke was due to stay at a friend's house after the night out, which was a common occurrence, and so went about her business, believing the next day, Friday, that Luke had gone to work as usual. Alicia had seen Alex later on the Friday, who told her that Luke hadn't picked up his motorbike. Quote, "Both the boys Luke had gone out with had phoned to see if he was in," Nikki explained. "But I didn't think anything of it still, because neither of them said his stuff was there. I just said, oh no, he's at work." A couple of sources note that Luke had booked the Friday off work, as it was probably going to be a late one, but it would seem that Nikki, Luke's mum, was unaware of this. The disappearance is out of character for Luke. His mum, Nikki, explains, quote, "We were a family who always kept in touch, letting each other know where we were. On the Friday evening, I was going out myself, which was quite a rare event, and staying at a friend's house, so I let both my son and daughter know what was happening. Luke's phone went to voicemail, but that didn't alarm me at that point. But then I phoned round his friends, and nobody had seen him since the Thursday. I was really worried about ringing his work in case Luke had phoned in sick." She explained, quote, "I didn't want to protect him if he was doing something wrong, but I didn't want to blow it up for him either. But I phoned and his boss said that he hadn't shown up." Luke had gone missing once before, a couple of years prior, and had gone to France. He told his sister about his plans though and kept in constant phone contact with her, coming home within a week. But this time, he hadn't taken his passport or any clothes, and his bank card hadn't been used. Nikki called all the local hospitals with no joy before calling the police. "It wasn't like Luke," she said. "Even when things hadn't been good between us before, I could make 2 phone calls and know where he was. He would always call or stay in touch with his friends." He was reported missing by his mum on Saturday, the 13th of May, 2006, when he failed to return home. Once again, credit to Mikey Womble for the following detailed account of what investigation uncovered had happened over the course of that Thursday night and Friday morning when Luke disappeared. On the evening of Thursday the 11th of May 2006, Luke had ridden his new motor vehicle to Woodbridge, which is about 8 miles west of Hollesley where he lived, and it should only have taken about 15 minutes or so, going back by the Woodbridge military barracks to get to his friend Alex's home, which is along Heath Road. Luke left his motorbike and personal belongings, including his mobile phone and possibly his wallet, though this is not corroborated, at Alex's house. I'm assuming that Zach was either already at Alex's house or had met them there, and the 3 walked to Woodbridge train station and got the train to Ipswich. Once there, the lads walked about 8 minutes to the Zest nightclub on Princes Street. The club didn't have a good reputation. There was a lot of crime and violence at the club between April of 2006 and December of the same year. Sadly, a man named Gmo Plunkett was murdered at the club on the 9th of December of 2006 in an incident where 6 gunshots were fired and other people were also shot or stabbed. The club was later ordered by Ipswich Council to close down in 2010 due to the club's failure to cut down on violent crime during business hours. Soon after arriving in Ipswich, Zach decided to go home for unknown reasons. Alex and Luke spent some time in the club, and Alex went to buy some drinks at the bar for the 2 of them. When he returned with their drinks, Alex couldn't find Luke and thought maybe he'd met up with a girl and left with her. Again, I'm not sure if this was typical behaviour of Luke or what prompted this suspicion in Alex, and it's not known if Luke was still elsewhere in the club or if he had actually left, and if so, with whom and where to. It is thought that Luke left the club at about 2 a.m, though I can't corroborate this time frame, and it doesn't seem to fit greatly with what we know of his subsequent movements. Luke was then seen at Ipswich train station at around 2:30 to 3 a.m. on the Friday, the 12th of May 2006. This is about a 5-minute walk from Princes Street, across the River Orwell. The trains had stopped running by this time, and the first train wasn't for hours, so Luke was asked to leave the station by staff, doing so without any issues. The next sighting happened at about 3:45 a.m. across the road from the Eastgate shopping centre at Hawk Taxis on the other side of town, along the Old Foundry Road. This is about a 20-minute walk from the train station, back across the River Orwell. It is believed that Luke was trying to get a taxi home, but he didn't have enough money on him to pay for the fare. This may be why it's thought that he's left his wallet at his friend's house and why Alex was getting the drinks in at the Zest nightclub. Apparently, Luke was relaxed, in a good mood, and was well mannered with staff, and whilst he was not described as drunk, he may have been a little tipsy. He was caught on the taxi rank CCTV camera. From here, Luke is thought to have walked towards Dog's Head Street, about a 5-minute walk away, where he was seen on CCTV footage at 4 a.m, walking across the zebra crossing towards the bus station at the Old Cattle Market. When Luke was captured on the CCTV footage, he was only about a 5-minute walk from where he had originally been when he left Zest nightclub. This was the last positive sighting of Luke and places him equidistant between the River Orwell and the water sources at Christchurch Park, though he had no reason to head towards either. It is then that it is believed Luke tried to walk home to Holdsley or to Alex's home in Woodbridge, about 10 and 8 miles away respectively. On foot, this is likely to take a number of hours, so I'm not sure if I really buy into this theory. It may well be that he intended to walk along the main thoroughfare and grab a ride home from a passing motorist, or that he was going to walk along the bus route and try to catch a bus for the rest of the journey. We just don't know. The route he would likely have taken wouldn't put him near any of the train stations or the water sources, as we've mentioned. After the night out, he never collected his wages from work or any of his personal belongings, motorbike or mobile phone that he'd left at Alex's house. On Sunday, the 14th of May 2006, Nikki received a call from the police, who, on finding that Luke's last known location was near the River Orwell, announced they would be sweeping the river. "I fell to bits," said Nikki. "I hadn't even considered that. I didn't know what state he'd been in. I didn't know anything. It made me think he could have fallen in the river and been swept away." Nothing was found in the river. Investigation over the initial weeks involved searches of fields and roadsides on foot with the helicopter and the dog unit. There were interviews and inquiries with over 100 people in contact with Luke, chats with the family and friends, and work colleagues. There were media appeals by his family, and inquiries into Luke's lifestyle and habits. 60 hours of CCTV footage from businesses and Ipswich Borough Council was trawled through, tracing Luke's path from the Zest nightclub to his last known whereabouts, but there was no trace of Luke after 4 a.m. CCTV images from the area were released to try and trace those in the area at the time. Image 1 shows a person who appears to be walking a dog in the distance in Dog's Head Street, close to the pedestrian crossing. Image 2 shows a cyclist seen in the vicinity at around 4:16 a.m. Images 3 and 4 show a person wearing a hooded coat and dark trousers walking around the corner of 4th Street past the Spread Eagle Public House at about 4:11. During the later stages of the investigation, emphasis has been placed on sightings of 2 vehicles of interest. The first involved a reported sighting of Luke in the Woodbridge area, near to the entrance of the Turbin Centre car park on Quayside, in a dark blue Renault Megane car being driven by a black male between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Saturday the 13th of May. It has not been confirmed that this is a positive sighting of Luke, though it is being investigated as a further line of inquiry. The second involves a silver or white-coloured Volvo 440, which was seen at 4:19 a.m. on Friday the 12th of May, just minutes after the last CCTV sighting of Luke. This car was captured by CCTV coming off Tackett Street and then driving along Orwell Place, which is only a 5-minute walk from where Luke was last seen. The car is very distinctive, as it is an older model being produced only between 1987 and 1996, a decade before Luke's disappearance. Nikki has always believed in the significance of this vehicle. Quote, "I am hopeful that someone will now come forward, and I am convinced there is someone out there with relevant information," she said. "I am sure someone locally knows something. It's a relief to know the team is now looking seriously at the importance of the car. Officers are keen to trace the driver and occupants of the vehicle, but no one has come forward so far." Apparently, Suffolk Police cleaned up the images to reveal a possible registration number of a vehicle of a similar description, M206LYE. This is not a definitive link. However, when the license plate was run through systems, it came back as registered to either a false name and address or false plates, or both, depending on the source that you read. Nothing further has been released in relation to this vehicle or the subsequent inquiries into it, or the possible hit on police databases. The case remains an active inquiry, and Suffolk Police sadly believe that Luke was unlawfully killed. In 2010, the joint Norfolk and Suffolk Major Investigation Team took over the investigation into Luke's disappearance. In August 2011, a 29-year-old man and a 24-year-old woman from Brixton were arrested on suspicion of attempting to commit fraudulent acts by misrepresentation by using Luke's identity to commit a computer-related fraud, i.e. online shopping. The pair were questioned, but due to insufficient evidence, they were released with no further action. This lead is not thought to have led to any other information. In June 2012, two men, aged 26 and 41, were arrested, one on suspicion of murder, the other on suspicion of being concerned in the murder of Luke, and extensive searches took place at various properties in Ipswich. The two were released on police bail. On the 11th of March 2013, the men were both released without further action. In November 2013, the BBC Crime Watch appeal was released regarding Luke, and Detective Superintendent John Brocklebank from the joint Norfolk and Suffolk Major Investigation Team appealed live, where he urged people to come forward with information. This resulted in a number of calls which were followed up, but sadly none led to anything concrete. On the 21st of February 2014, as part of continued investigations, specialist officers carried out searches in a wooded area in Ufford between the B1438 and the Avenue or Parklands, where a bone believed to have been human was found in woodland off the A1438 near Ufford and Woodbridge, 9 miles from where Luke lived in Suffolk. Detective Superintendent John Brocklebank from the Major Investigation Team said, quote, "Officers have been searching the wooded area in Ufford as part of our continued inquiries into Luke's disappearance. We knew Luke frequented this area prior to him going missing, and as well as other lines of inquiry, we have also recently searched the woodland area. At this very early stage, we cannot make any assumptions about the discovery of this small piece of bone. However, we have had it confirmed that it is human." He continued, "We need to carry out a more detailed search of the area, which may take a number of weeks. We have advised Luke's family of the discovery, but we are keen to stress that we cannot and will not speculate that this is Luke. We need to pass the work to specialists in this field to establish the identity of the bone." Further, more detailed tests were conducted, and it was later established that the bone was from an animal, most likely a deer. Detective Superintendent John Brocklebank said, "This was always going to be very difficult to establish, as we were dealing with a very small fragment of bone, and it was essential that we sought the expertise of specialists in order to move the investigation forward. Our job now is to continue with the inquiries." On the 28th of September 2015, a £20,000 reward was raised by Crimestoppers, Suffolk Police, Luke's mum Nikki, and the East Anglian Daily Times/Ipswich Star for information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for the disappearance of Luke. The reward was valid for 3 months, but sadly remained unclaimed, with no further lines of inquiry established. In 2016, at the 10-year anniversary of Luke's disappearance, Detective Inspector Kevin Hayward released further appeals, confirming that, quote, "10 years on, the Luke Durbin investigation remains an active and open inquiry. Every piece of information that has been provided has been and will continue to be followed up. We are committed to finding out what happened to Luke." In 2017, 11 years after Luke went missing, CCTV images from the area were re-released in the hopes of generating further leads or triggering the memories of those in the area at the time. Detective Inspector Kevin Hayward said, quote, "Following each anniversary appeal, we have received calls showing that this is still something that people have information on. So even 11 years after he was last seen, we hope this new appeal may prompt a response that leads us to finding out what happened that morning. The first theory that we need to consider, as in every missing adult's case, is that Luke disappeared of his own accord. This has never been a viable theory in Luke's case. He was only 6 weeks into his new job and had plans to save money, to travel, and to record his music. The only time he had left of his own accord prior, which was to go to France, he had informed his sister beforehand and kept in constant telephone communication before coming home before just a week. Police and the Durbin family had been concerned for Luke's well-being from the very beginning. Sadly, in most cases of disappearance, we also have to consider the theory of suicide. Again, in Luke's case, this doesn't hold much weight for reasons we've just touched on. He was making money, making plans, was supposed to pick up his work's wages the following day. We know there had been a positive change in his demeanour prior to the incident. He was happier and had got a new motorbike with new motivation. So the third theory, there is the possibility of an accident having occurred while Luke tried to get home. Within this section, there are a couple of sub-theories to consider. First of all, there is a credible possibility that an accident occurred where Luke may have entered a water source. There is a known phenomenon whereby young males of college age who disappear after having a drink almost invariably end up passing away in the water. Sadly, this has happened multiple times all around the world, with some even believing in serial killers and mass murders, such as the Smiley Face murders and the Manchester Canal pusher. For example, in the UK, Thomas Jones, age 18, disappeared in 2018 walking home from a bar after a night out in Worcester, found in the River Severn. In England, 61 bodies, mostly of young men, were recovered from the Manchester canals alone between 2008 and 2014, two of which include Charlie Pope and Orlando Niero, both age 19, who disappeared 3 months apart in 2018 after leaving a bar on a night out. In the US, Zachary Marr, age 22, disappeared in 2016 after celebrating his birthday at a bar in Boston, found in the Charles River. Patrick McNeil, age 20, disappeared in 1997 after leaving a bar on a night out in New York, found in the East River. Chris Jenkins, age 21, disappeared in 2002 after leaving a bar on a night out in Minneapolis, found in the Mississippi River. In fact, between 1997 and 2008, authorities have recovered the bodies of more than 40 young men from rivers and lakes in more than 25 cities across 11 states. Almost all were college-aged, had been seen leaving bars or parties, and were inebriated. Since 1997, the bodies of at least 10 young men have been recovered from rivers in and around the college town of La Crosse along the Mississippi River in Wisconsin. So as far as this theory goes, despite it being somewhat plausible, again there are some issues. Firstly, if we really consider his movements already that night and during the early hours, we know he managed to safely cross the River Orwell on at least 2 separate occasions. First, when he went to the train station, and then again when he went to the taxi rank. Secondly, Suffolk Police searched the River Orwell and surrounding areas early on in the investigation and found no trace of him. And as we've already discussed earlier on, if Luke was intending to walk home, the route he likely would have taken would not have led him near to any water sources. There is also a possibility that if Luke had decided to walk home, he could have been involved in a vehicular accident along the way. The route apparently took him through some country roads, the national speed limit of which in the UK is 60 miles an hour, or 97 kilometres an hour. These are often not well lit, and there is no guarantee of public walkway along the roadside, meaning pedestrians sometimes have to walk in the road themselves, which can be very dangerous. However, as we've mentioned, I don't think it's highly likely that he intended on walking home in the first place. He had apparently never attempted this before. According to trains running today, the first train from Ipswich to Woodbridge on a Friday morning is at 6:20 in the morning and only takes 15 minutes. The walk home would have taken him much longer than this, so it would have made more sense for him just to wait it out until the first train. He could have borrowed a phone off somebody to ask for a lift, or could have seen if he could find or get a few quid for a train ticket, which would now be £4.90, but potentially significantly cheaper back in 2006. Same argument goes for the bus, which would have been cheaper again and often run more frequently, finish later, start earlier than the trains. If this theory is correct, whoever collided with him must have removed him from the scene and placed him elsewhere since he was never found, and it's likely he would have turned up by now. I also would have thought there would be signs pointing to an accident in the area having taken place, tyre marks on the road, possibly blood, certainly noise which could have been heard depending on where it may have taken place. The next theory is that Luke fell victim to foul play, and potentially the most plausible of which involves a vehicle. We know that a Volvo 440 was seen in the area a few minutes after Luke was last seen, allegedly moving away from the direction of the bus station. It's possible that Luke asked the driver for a lift, or conversely, that the driver offered Luke a lift. Either way, Luke was vulnerable at the time, with no money, no access to communication, and he was intoxicated. The driver, or potentially other occupants, may have seen this as an opportunity to rob him, not knowing he didn't have anything with him. When they saw that he had no cash or phone, etc., this could have angered them, or the situation could have gone south for any number of other reasons, resulting in harm coming to Luke. The same scenario could have played out minus the vehicle, however. Luke could have been set upon by an individual or group with the intention of robbing him during his walk home, if he indeed did try to walk home, and maybe this is why he's never been found. Sadly, unless further evidence is uncovered, which is unlikely given the time lapse, or unless someone finally comes forward with information, it remains possible that we may never know what happened to Luke or where he is. The question that sticks in my mind the most is the time difference between when he is thought to have left Zest, about 2 a.m, and when he was last seen on CCTV footage at 4 a.m. on Dogs Head Road. He was supposedly at the train station at 2:30 to 3 a.m, which is only a 5-minute walk from the club he was at. There is a lot of missing time here. The next sighting is not until 3:45 at Hawk Taxis, only a 20-minute walk from the station. Again, there's missing time here. From there, Luke was seen on CCTV footage at 4 a.m. on Dogs Head Road, walking across the zebra crossing towards the bus station at the Old Cattle Market, which was just 5 minutes away. As far as we know, Luke was alone in all of the sightings and footage, but it would not take him 2 hours to look for a ride home, taking the route that the CCTV footage and sightings have him taken. Is there potential for him to have met up with someone else during this time frame? I have to believe that the CCTV footage was gone through with a fine-tooth comb, hence the other footage of him materialising, and so he must have been in areas which were either not covered at CCTV at the time, which seems a bit of a stretch to me, or maybe he was dipping in and out of businesses along the way, maybe bars or food places along his walks, who knows. Nikki Durbin, Luke's mother, decided in 2018, 12 years after Luke disappeared, to begin working for the Missing People charity. She hopes that her unique understanding will help others, and said she wanted to use her personal experience to support others via Missing People's Crisis Helpline. Nikki has taken calls from parents and family members and vulnerable people who were missing or who were thinking of leaving home. Quote, "I can offer non-judgmental support and a safe space for them to talk about their situation, and hopefully I can help them to find comfort or a safe way home," she added. "I constantly grieve for Luke, but I'm unable to mourn for my child. You're left living in limbo and feeling isolated. Missing People not only helped my family with the ongoing emotional impact of losing Luke, but also helped generate publicity to keep the search for him alive." Paul Joseph from the charity said, quote, "It is a real testament to the excellent support our helpline team give that Nikki was inspired to want to work for us. She successfully went through our recruitment process and got the role, and is already a valued member of the team, delivering support to anyone affected." Nikki has sought comfort from forming friendships with other families of missing people. Quote, "There is a relief in knowing that you're reacting normally to a very abnormal situation. That's definitely a huge comfort. just feeling normal, because this is not normal. Your child should not just disappear off the face of the earth. I also found an article on goodhousekeeping.com where the Missing People charity talks about what they can do to help families. Quote, "We understand from speaking to families that having a missing loved one is a very unique situation, and it can be difficult to know what to do, who to talk to, or how to search for your loved one," said Sophie Lapham, Director of Services at Missing People. Thanks to the generous support of partners, the charity offers a free and confidential helpline in Europe on 116 000 24 hours a day to provide non-judgmental advice and guidance to anybody who is missing or away from home, as well as practical and emotional support to those dealing with the heartbreak of a missing loved one. Apart from our 24-hour helpline, there are other ways to ensure you are getting the right support and making the right steps forward in the active search for your missing loved one, she said. They are 1. Advising families on how to set up social media pages. 2. Offering an online moderated forum for registered family and friends of missing people to openly talk, share experiences and find support. 3. Hosting various events throughout the year, offering an opportunity to meet other families and supporters of the charity. 4. Bringing families with missing loved ones together with the Missing People Choir, using music as a way to express emotions and reach out with a personal message of hope and loss. Luke Durbin is also a member of this choir. The choir featured on Britain's Got Talent in 2017. After their televised performance, a missing boy called his mother after seeing her singing in the choir. Another missing person was reunited with their family, and information was also received about 2 others. 5. Similarly, writing can also help express emotion. Missing People welcomes families to write about their experiences for the Missing blog, which is shared on social media and can be used as a way to raise awareness. Remaining hopeful, I'll now leave you with Luke's description again and some words and appeals from the investigators and Luke's mum, Nikki. At the time of his disappearance, Luke was 19 years old and was described as white, 5 foot 10 inches tall, with a slim build. He had blue eyes and short, wavy brown hair, which may be light brown or dark brown. The last time he was seen, Luke was wearing a black/grey long-sleeved collared shirt, a reversible purple or plum and grey white stuff sweatshirt, and tatty-looking faded denim jeans with an undescribed motif on the side thigh area. He was also wearing grey, chocolate brown suede moccasin-style shoes or loafers. Detective Superintendent John Brocklebank stated, "I remain convinced that someone locally knows what happened to Luke, and I can completely understand that some people may feel a reluctance to come forward. I would like to reassure those people that we can protect them if necessary, and they can come forward in complete confidence to speak to an officer on the case."
If these wings could fly,
Referring to the
oh, down these walls, in the moment we're 10 feet cold, and how you told me after it all,
may have been in Ipswich,
we'd remember tonight.
said, over the years, we've made numerous appeals and have carried out hundreds of inquiries, but we still need that crucial piece of information to find Luke, and I would urge anyone who can help to come forward. Following each anniversary appeal, we have received calls showing that this is still something that people have information on. We hope that this new appeal may prompt the response that we need and lead us to finding out what happened that morning. To confirm, the Luke Durbin investigation remains an open and active inquiry. Police are continuing to ask anyone with information about his disappearance to come forward. Every piece of information that has been provided has been and will continue to be followed up. We are committed to finding out what happened to Luke. Although a number of people came forward or were traced early on in the investigation, there remain those in the area around the time of the last sighting of Luke who were not identified. All of those pictured in CCTV images issued at the time were treated as potential witnesses, and this remains the case. There is nothing to suggest at this time that they have any involvement in Luke's disappearance, but we are keen to speak to them. We would ask that anybody who recognises themselves or anybody who may have information to identify those pictured to contact police. We would also ask anyone else who may have any information to call. With the passage of time, you may feel that you can come forward and share something you might not have done before. Police would like to get contact details for any of the individuals shown in the images and are asking them to get in touch. Luke's mum Nikki has also made numerous appeals, and her message remains the same. Quote, "Myself and the police believe that it is someone local that is withholding that information, and I beg them to just come forward. I would beg anyone who may be withholding information to come forward." Referring to the years lapsed since Luke's disappearance, she notes, quote, "Loyalties change, lifestyles changed. You may have your own children now. Just imagine for a second the devastation to you and your family if your child seemingly disappeared off the face of the earth. If you had a colourful past, the police are not interested in that. All they want is to get the answers my family so desperately need. The police have assured me that if you are worried about coming forward because of your own safety, they will protect you. You may think the information you have is trivial. Please still go to the police. That may be the vital piece of information the police have been waiting for. For those people who have come forward with information about Luke's disappearance, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Although, to date, that crucial piece of information is not there. It has enabled the police, however, to build a better picture, and a few names have repeatedly cropped up. Someone knows exactly what happened to Luke, and they have not yet come forward. I often wonder how that person or those people can sleep at night. If you are that person withholding that crucial piece of information, please find the courage to contact the police. You can be the start of the end to my family's suffering. Don't let us have to endure another day unnecessarily of this nightmare. I will never stop searching until Luke is found. I thank everyone for making that search so much easier by continually spreading the word about Luke's disappearance, and for the kindness and compassion you have shown to my family. Nikki also has a personal appeal. Quote, "I'm appealing directly to Luke's friends and acquaintances. Luke as a little person was more than happy to have his photo taken, and we have a stack up until the age of about 13. Sadly, after that, he became camera shy, and we only have a few after that time. Therefore, if you have any photos or videos of him, can you message me? Firstly, it will be like winning the lottery to see a new image of Luke. A lovely friend of Luke sent a photo to me that I hadn't seen before. I can't tell you how incredibly happy it made me feel. Secondly, the more images of Luke in his late teens, the more chance of it perhaps jogging someone's memories. Just maybe we will be able to bring my beautiful boy home, no matter what the situation. Pictures of Luke can be sent to findluke@hotmail.co.uk. And the final line from Nikki is, I will never stop searching for Luke. He is loved and missed every day. If you have any information relating to the disappearance of Luke Durbin, please contact one of the following agencies: the Major Investigation Team on 01473 and any of the following extensions: 782019, 613540, or 668-999. Crimestoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111. Suffolk Police on 101. The UK Police National Missing Persons Bureau at www.missingpersons.police.uk, or the Missing People Helpline, which is available 24/7 on 116 000. To further jog memories, the headlines around the 11th to the 13th of May 2006 included: Joe Royal left as manager of Ipswich Town Football Club, 11th of May. Gnarls Barkley was number 1 in the UK charts with Crazy. The Da Vinci Code was about to premiere in the UK. Liverpool FC won the FA Cup against West Ham United on penalties after a last-minute 40-yard Steven Gerrard equaliser, 13th of May. So thank you for once again spending some time with me here. Thank you for listening to Luke's story, and thank you for bearing with me during the significant gap I had since the last video. It's brilliant to see you all here. Thank you very much to my original and newest subscribers. I hope you enjoy the video, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.